Hi guys, hope you're going well. Joseph here for Pod TV. Today I want to talk about dermatology. Specifically, I actually want to speak about functional skin anatomy. So, when we look at the skin, often we forget that it's actually an organ. And so, as an organ, it means that it's comprised of basically a number of specialized tissues, and the anatomy is actually quite unique. So, looking at that in a little bit more depth, the actual structure of the skin and how it's put together gives us a lot of insight into how it actually works. So that's what I mean by functional anatomy. Um, Many of you would probably remember from your studies that the anatomical idea of structure determines function. So in other words, the way something is shaped tells us a lot about how it works. For example, take a can opener, right? You're not going to use that to spread some, Vegemite on your toast. And so I think we often apply that principle specifically in relation to musculoskeletal therapy and biomechanics and just looking at the musculoskeletal anatomy as a whole. But do we do it as the skin? Do we actually look at the skin as a functional entity? And so when you think about skin and how we understand it, how we assess it, if you start to look at the basic anatomy of skin, the external part, the epidermis, you can see that its structure and its function actually alters depending on where it is. So the foot being one example of a variety of unique tissues within the actual skin organ. The dorsum of the foot is structurally and therefore functionally different to the plantar side of the foot. I mean, one simple difference between the two is the dorsum of the foot is typically hairy. It also contains nails, whereas the plantar side of the foot is glabrous. It has no hair in it at all. So, if looking at this a little bit further, if we when we actually look at skin conditions that are specific to the foot, it's almost as if that specificity of the skin condition, um, that skin condition is specific to a specific area. So, so an example of that could be tinea. So tinea is a specific microbe that lives on specific areas of the body, and it's specialized and selective for those particular areas. So whatever skin condition you're seeing, if you apply that to the actual anatomy and to the function, you can get a deeper insight into how that skin condition actually developed. But another interesting comparison, again, comparing um, musculoskeletal anatomy to our skin anatomy, is that when it comes to the skin, not only have we got like specialized tissue and specialized conditions for specialized areas, but we can actually see exactly what those conditions are and how they're affecting the skin and often the actual body as a whole. I mean, so for example, if you compare a corn with chronic ankle pain, you can see the external anatomy of the ankle, but the internal anatomy of the ankle often requires specific tests, scans, etc. Whereas a corn, you can see pretty quickly what it is. It's something that's very external. But taking that functional anatomical approach, it's hard to get corns in certain areas of the foot because it's related to the underlying anatomy of within the foot, the weight bearing areas, or the thickness of the tissue, or the way that the tissue hyperkeratinizes on the plantar surface of the foot. And so if you have a look at that anatomy and you add on top of that the external environment that the shod populations are in, so you think about footwear, you think about socks, you think about the hard world that we live in, the external environment. If you put that together with an understanding of functional anatomy, it means that most of the skin conditions that you see, it's really the combination of all of those factors coming together. So tinea and corns are two examples of how the specificity of tissue and the functional anatomy combined with an external environment come together to create very unique features that you really don't see in other parts of the body. So if you want to know more about functional anatomy and the skin as a whole, I'm going to be running a webinar in early June. The details are on my website, healme.com.au. It's called Skin Essentials, and we're going to be delving much deeper into topics like this to really give you a deeper understanding of what you're seeing when a patient presents with a dermatological problem, and also how to actually look at the skin as a whole, how to look at it as an organ, how to look at it as a functional entity, and how to understand the environmental factors that are at play. Keep safe, keep well, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the week.